in loving memory of Cinnamon Cooney.
Hi everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, the Art Sherpa, and today I want to show you step by step every part of it, how you can paint this celestial moon. Now it's great that I can paint it, but I'm going to show you how to paint it because I'm going to explain to you everything you need to know to create this yourself. So get your paint, get your brushes, and come back and meet me at the easel right now. Let's get arting. This is an 11 by 14 pre-gessoed canvas. It doesn't need another thing to be ready to paint. Over here, I have heavy-bodied acrylic paint in the colors Dioxazine Purple, Phthalo Blue, Quinacridone Magenta, Cad Yellow Medium. This particular one is Southern Ocean Blue, but you could do this in aqua or turquoise, any version of that you like. Glazing liquid, titanium white, acrylic brushes, and of course, water for thinning. And then I will have white and black paint. So let's start painting in everything, but to do that I'm going to need to sketch in my moon shape, and circles are not my, I don't know, fave. So what I like to do is use a plate. I'm taking my plate and I'm got this sort of general dinner plate going here with my butterflies that are in the way, and I'm going to just trace with my little woodworking pencil I made. You could use your watercolor pencil, kids chalk, anything you need, right around the outside. And that's going to give me a nice round shape that I can paint around, and I don't have to rely on my free handing to get that really good. Put that aside. And so the first part of this, we're going to paint in the space in what is outside of our dimensional moon. Okay, so let's start putting that in. I'm going to pick a pretty big brush. This is a number 30 silver ruby satin. Has nice synthetic fibers. Believe it or not, this is a bright. And even though this is pretty big, this is not like a wash or a flat, and it has a great flick, so it's going to help me do this background really easily. I'm going to prime this brush by getting it just a smidge wet. Now, because it's synthetic fibers, it's not going to over soak up water. So this is going to be just damp. Feel your brush with your hand sometimes just to make sure that it's not overly wet. I'm going to pull out, see a little bit of my phthalo blue into my Dioxazine Purple. And this is going to be our background space color. And I'm going to just very carefully, I don't have to be perfect about this, paint around my moon shape, my dimensional moon. I like these because they kind of remind me of the blacklight posters, you know, that you could get. I'm going to keep going. If I need to get better flow off my brush, I might dip in the water a little bit and pull that out. Another way that I can improve flow is with my medium, my glazing medium. But right now I just need a background, nice, solid, deep, dark background. That's my space. And you might be interested to know, why am I not painting this black? Get a little glazing medium for improving flow. And the reason I'm not is this keeps the painting looking very spacey but not too dark. It's just a little thing I like to do. While you're painting, remember, and I totally challenge you to, as you're doing it and you're talking to yourself in your head, I challenge you to speak nicely to yourself. If you're with friends, I challenge you guys to encourage each other. Same with family. And keep your energy positive on your canvas. Just silence the worry and the negativity and the concern that you might have, and just try to focus on how fun it is to mix blue and purple and color in the empty space on the canvas. Not nice, just brushing that in. When I want to cover big areas, I brush out on the flat of my brush, and when I want to cover narrow areas, I go on this edge here. So I've got these two strokes that I can do. See that? Look how nicely that does. Just covering it up. And I also like to kind of stroke maybe a little bit the direction, a little bit of a fisheye stroke. Be sure and rinse out your brushes and put them to the side, lying flat when you're done. Now, while the outside is drying, or you've already let it dry, I'm going to paint the inside with kind of an underpainting of a soft yellow, and that's going to help our fiery sunset feel very warm and really contrasting against the background of this space portal. So I'm going to get another brush. I'm going to get a number 10 bright. So it's big enough to really paint this area. I don't want to get, if I were to get a really tiny brush, it would take me a long time to paint this area. So I've got a number 10 bright. It has a synthetic filament. You can see I'm already getting, check your artist hands and see if you're dirty already. It's a good time to do that. I always like to post those on social media. These are my dirty artist hands. All right. So dip this into your water. Dip this into your water and drag off the extra. I'm going to take a little of the white over to my yellow. I'm going to even get a little glazing medium. I just want this to have this sort of bright yellow all painted in under here for when I do this sunset. It's going to really help how bright this is. Now, one thing to help you really succeed at this painting, do a great job, is get a really good professional white paint if you can. You know, you've always got to respect your budget. And if you can't, you know, just know that you might need to do a couple of coats of paint when you're doing the crescent part of the moon over this. We're just making sure that our canvas is completely covered with paint. I'm going to brush the shape of this circle, pull a little yellow out, pull a little white out, and just make sure this is all covered. So these are very different. If this weren't dry, it would mix into this yellow and make it very gray. So if you're having that problem, hair dry it and then paint over it. Don't let it stop you. Just like this is nice and yellow. So that's cheerful, isn't it? That's a super, super, super cheerful background. Now I'm going to rinse this out really, really, really well. And of course, dry this and put this flat. And I'm going to get this. This is a natural bristle brush. This is a number 8 bright. And I'm going to put in some nebula effects. I'm going to actually flip my canvas over because I want to make my workspace, and this is important to you, I want to make my workspace comfortable. So remember, it's easier to move the canvas than yourself. All the time I see people forgetting to breathe while they're painting and forgetting to move the canvas, and this includes me when they're painting to make their time more enjoyable. So I'm going to put in some interesting and fun kind of nebula shapes. Now, one thing I'm noticing with you guys online sometimes is that you're kind of struggling with that cloud shape. So I'm going to show you a really cool trick. This is a chalk pencil. You can use your kids' chalk from home if you want to try this technique, if you've been struggling with it. I'm going to come over on the top line of my canvas, maybe 4 inches over from the side, and I'm going to wander up, 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 come back. Right? Now I'm going to curve back, wandering out, right? Now, what do nebulas sometimes do? Sometimes they curve in, don't they? Let's make a very interesting little weird horseshoe shape here. Then back, 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 coming up here like this. That is an interesting cloud shape. Where's another interesting place we could have a cloud shape? We could have a cloud shape coming right here. Little gaseous cloud. It's going to go back, 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 wandering out, right? Maybe it could have a little opening right here. We're saying these gaseous clouds are very interesting little creatures, right? And they could be layered over that. You could even have one type of cloud shape coming off this edge here, right? And then I think I'll probably put some there as well, but I'm going to wait. And I'm going to start painting these in with this brush. You can do a round brush. You can do a dome brush. I really, really like these cloud style brushes that have a dome head. But I'm going to show you something that you might just be able to find wherever you're at. This sort of natural bristle brush. I'm going to get this a little bit wet. When bristle brushes get wet, they get softer. And I'm going to get a little white first. And I want this to be kind of a dry or maybe even glazed brush. And I'm going to come and I'm going to at first make this soft sort of circular pattern inside in white, right? This shape that I put out ahead of time. Now, if I was really struggling with those cloud shapes, say I was making lots of circles or some other shape, this could really help me find, I'm going to come back here. I don't try to paint it all a uniform white. Notice that I'm just dusting this with a little bit of white, right? Just dusting that with a little bit of white. Now come here and get some of your blue onto your brush and a little white. I'm going to just come in here dry. See, this is called a dry brush, and I'm just circling, working the edge of this, right? Building up the layers, building up this nebula space, right? Some of this is quite bright blue. Come over here maybe on the edge a little bit to the inside. Oh, there we go. See, isn't that nice? Right over into the sky a little bit. Right, now you can come over into, say, your dog's name purple. And a little bit your white. I sometimes will grab a glaze. Go ahead and, you want this to be kind of brighter. Don't let any of the purple get into your yellow paint. The reason being is that they're contrasts of each other. And the yellow will gray the purple out, and that will ruin your effect. Coming right here and blending these. Right, look at these go. Aren't these fun? Just the beginning. Now I might come here and add some of this too. If you need to switch the canvas to the side here, what you're trying to do is get a nice blend going, right? I may come back. It's okay if these two spaces kind of encroach on each other because we're going to be putting that other little moon space over it. You're just trying to get some white now maybe this time. You're just trying to create these nebula shapes. Space has got a lot of depth, not to be punny. And you're going to want to show it in your cloud shapes. So, just letting the pigment come off my brush. And we're going to be layering these a lot. If you lose an area, like say you held some space, right, and you want to get that back, remember that you can go right back into just the pure Dogsony and come back and add this depth. Look at that, right? Let's push that depth right back into the cloud there, to that gaseous mess. Now I'm going to flip this over and kind of look at what I've got here and assess. I think that I want to take some nebulas. I'm going to load up just phthalo blue and a little white. And I'm going to put a little of this up here. Right. Just a little something to show that this is happening, right? Maybe add it down here. Right there. Hit the bottom. Showing that stuff. If you need to get the space back, go ahead, phthalo blue, Dogsony purple. Just do a nice blend. You don't have to worry about it. Look, just putting it back. Push it up into that space maybe. Don't feel bad about making that as deep as you need to make it to make it push away, I'm going to put this back in my purple water, and I'm going to flick in some stars. Now here's my thing on stars. I like to use my splattering tool, an old toothbrush, these types of things to get in my stars, and I'm pretty comfortable and confident with it because I've splattered millions and billions and trillions of stars. But if this is your first painting, my big success, no stress tip would be get some construction paper out, get another piece of paper and your toothbrush and your paint and practice and make sure you're not getting kind of like webs or splats or shapes that you don't want, because that'll ruin your experience. I've also, the white I put out, it's titanium white, but it's fluid. And that means that it's going to be much less heavy in body than this paint, in other words, stiff, and it'll come off my toothbrush very nicely. So I'm going to come here, and I just flick. Super easy. Because I'm going to be painting the moon in, and because I'm going to be painting the other stuff in, I really don't have to worry about this overspray into the yellow area at all. And I guess it's about big stars today. And we're going to dry that. Put your toothbrush in water. We're going to dry that with our hair dryer and then work our next layer. All right. I'm ready to get the next layer. I might, because my white is surrounded by a bunch of colors I don't necessarily want to mix, or I want an area where I've got a nice clarified color, I'm going to put out my white paint again. If your water is very dirty, be sure and change it often, especially on spacescapes. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, dry it off on the towel, and I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and get some of my glaze on it. Let's come here with my glazed quinacridone, right, and add this color to our nebula. Look at that. So the glaze is letting some of the stuff that I did shine through, and it gives it that sort of looking through at the depths of things. You still see some stars, but they're colored by the space. I'm going to push this through. I'm thinking about my comfort, and I'm assessing, am I feeling uncomfortable? And if I am, I'm going to turn my canvas. Not interrupting my creative flow in any way. I'm going to turn my canvas. When I have that color that I like it, I'm going to add a little white to my brush, to my quinacridone. Love saying quinacridone. And a little glaze. I'm going to come right here. Create a nice little cloud space right here. Isn't that nice? Maybe there's one right there. Just enjoy what you've got going. Every time I do a spacescape, I enjoy each one so much. I'm going to get right into my quinacridone again. Maybe come behind this and give it a little bit of a shadow. And you can also, believe it or not, mix the dog's name purple in, and you get this really neat color. And that can really shade it. We'll push this darker right up the center. Take this down through here. There we go. Isn't that nice? Just a soft circular motion. Pushing that along. Super fun stuff. Now maybe I want a little of this over here. So I'm going to grab a little of my purple and a little of my quinacridone and some white. Maybe right here. Kind of define that just a little bit. Maybe there's the blue peeking out. Just enjoying the spacescape. If you have too much pigment on your brush, you can always dab it off on your towel. And you'll know that when you're not seeing any of the canvas kind of strike through underneath, and you're feeling like it's just a glob of paint instead of an airy fairy little cloud. And what we want is airy fairy, happy little clouds. You know where we are? You can get I like to sometimes get a little more white on there. So that's quite bright. Glaze if I need it. Come at the top and create a nice little dimensional shape by highlighting this shape right here. Then I find, oh, that's a nice little shape that I'm doing right there. Let's come down here. All right. Okay. Just making a little space for all of that. Maybe a little bit right there. We're going to have the waterfall coming down here, so we don't have to worry too much. I just want to make sure that we've got some aqua, that we've got some depth, that these feel like they're interesting. I want to put something here. So one thing I can do is I can take a little of this aqua. I might even mix a little in the phthalo blue. Get some of my white. Sort of an interesting color. Just put a little of that right here. Look at that. That's very nebula. If you need to move your, what do? We move when we need to move. All right, let's push a little of that right there. Up here. Oh, I like that color so much. Just pushing that. Maybe it comes up here. It's a lot of fun. See, it's just layering, right? Maybe give a little of that space there. It's just that layering, and enjoy that layering. You know, you take it to where you're happy, where your space is the final frontier that you would like to adventure through. When you have that where you're happy with it, oh, glazing up there. It's always fun. And so you've got this bright field of stars and all of this. If you want to hit it with just one more layer of stars, that can be a good thing to do. And also a good thing to do to get more fresh water. Okay, now this is a good time to assess your stars. Do you have enough stars? Is there enough twinkle in your sky? I really like to have a lot of twinkle. Your twinkle is up to you. Remember, this is your painting. You get it done your way. I'm going to get my toothbrush out again. Load it back up with the fluid paint. Check the load. I like to rub my finger over it. And then off on the towel. Definitely have to wash my hands after paintings. And just apply a little more Starscape to my stars. It's just something that personally makes me happy. I'm going to take this time to pull a very nice number 8 bright, and I'm going to define my crescent. Now my crescent is unusual. Getting my brush a little bit wet here. I'm going to take my turquoise paint, whatever turquoise that you have. I like to use, if you can, the pigment, manufactured pigment, because it's so bright and will really pop on the landscape. And I'm going to come along the U with this color. Here we go. All right, along the edge of this. Now in this crescent, in this dimensional moon, it's going to be thinner up here at the top and thicker at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and thicken this up. And this is another reason why I like to have the white paint in my mix, because it helps with the opacity or coverage of this. And then I'm going to taper my stroke and thin it at the edge of my moon. Now you can absolutely re-thin up here as you're putting in your sunset, so don't feel trapped. If you have any boo-boos, you can go back and trim it out. All right, so we're just doing this little upside down horseshoe. This is a little bit different than you might expect. But you want to give it that moon shape so it feels like a moon. Little glaze there. Not that I want it to be transparent. I just want to make sure That's a nice crescent. You want to believe that this is sturdy enough to hold its dimensional portal, right? If you need to get some more white into it, and this will be where you really notice how your white performs. How easily it's covering over the painting underneath. All right, when you have your crescent where you feel pretty good about it, it's a good time to dry the painting so that you can create your really cool horizon line. So let's dry it real fast. I want to show you something that happened to my painting when it dried, and it might be happening to yours at home, so I like to be able to talk to you about these things. Over here, as it dried, it became more transparent, and there were a couple spots that started to reveal themselves as they dried, and then I noticed I had a little boo-boo up here. And sometimes after drying time, you're going to want to assess how your paint has dried, and if ever you see this streaking or your highlights have disappeared, it can be a good time to do a second layer. And hopefully you can see this. Do you see how this is really just sort of showing through and it looks very streaky? It's real bad on the side over here, but you can kind of see it a little bit. See how it just didn't quite pop? So this can be a good time. I'm going to take some more of my aqua color, your turquoise, and I'm going to just very carefully go ahead and paint some more over the top. You know, just paint some more over the top. Just to make sure that my coverage is good, and I'm really happy with the result of how my painting looks. Now that doesn't happen to me very often because of the products I use, but even with the products I use, it can happen to anybody. And I think it's important to know that it's just something that you can fix, correct for, and that you don't really have to worry about. Rinse out your brush, give it a look, dry it again, and see if you get something. Wait, that looks kind of crazy streaky on camera, but it's not as crazy as it looks on camera. I think that's a camera thing, but I'll try to fix it so you're not like, wait, what's that? There you go. Just a little bit less. Okay, I'm going to dry this again so I can get my horizon line in. All right, I'm going to take a T-square because sometimes level is not my best friend. And to create my horizon line, I'm going to come below the halfway mark on my dimensional moon and make a line across, a very light one, whether it's in chalk or whatever you're using to make a mark, just a light little mark. So I know that above this is the sky and below this is the water that's going to be spilling out into space. Are you being calm and easy with yourself? Are you saying nice things about your project? That's your big challenge for this one, is how easy are you being with yourself? All right. Now I'm going to paint in the water in my sky, but first I'm going to paint in my water. And my water is going to be a little bit of my quinacridone red and my cad yellow. And it's going to be quite dark. Look how dark that is right there. I might even move a little of my glazing liquid out so that I'm not getting any of my purple into it. And I'm going to come across here with that dark line. It's pretty easy. So this idea of changing it to this fiery sunset was actually from a Sherpette who I got permission to do this with. I just grabbed some more yellow. I thought for the purposes of this project, I might just Even though I know I'm going to do an ombre, just kind of trim this here so that there's a nice space. I'm going to go back and forth with this bright, like orange that I've got. Like right here, right back. So here it needs to be level. You're going to curve your sky, but right here, let's make it level. And then as I go forward, I'm going to get more yellow. I might grab some of my glazing medium. I'm going to blend that yellow into the wet color above it. And then as I'm coming forward, I'm going to rinse out my brush just a little bit. And I'm going to take a little of my yellow over to this white that I happen to have right here. And just blend these two. Just blend them into the white. Just blending it. Alright, just blending it out. A little more yellow. Just enjoy it. Just a little blend, straight strokes across. See how it makes it kind of feel like a water. Blending right here. Just blending. Very nice water effect. Darker in the back, lighter in the front. Pull it across for a nice water effect. Now while you're at it, it can be a good idea to get some just white on your brush. Come along here. Very easily. Zigzag. Back and forth this highlight on the water. Wipe a little of the paint off my brush and get a little more of this white. So I've got a nice little bead here, so it'll lay out for me easily. As I come forward, I'm going to let this be just a little more white right here. I have a little landmass I'm going to put right here. And until I do that, I'm just going to leave this right along the edge, curve it, and pull it out straight, just so it's a little bit lighter. Get a little more yellow if you lose all your yellow there. And we'll work that once we get our landmass in. Now, on our sky, we're going to take a little of our just pure yellow, and right here where we put our reflections out, let's make a little half circle. Then I'm going to get a little more white, maybe some glazing liquid if I need it. Kind of come over in a circle above my sun, back and forth, curving around to the horizon line. My brush strokes will be curved. As I'm going up, I might grab, a little of the yellow, kind of darkening it up. And you can see how having the yellow underpainting really helps. We're just going to do it just the simplest sunset. As I'm going up, I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone, just a smidge, over to my yellow. I'm going to make this kind of bright orange. And start blending in. Just curving over the color of the sunset into the background, this orange. Just blending the orange. All right. Now I'm going to get more of this quinacridone. Start getting really fiery up here to the top. Just work that. See how the edge of my brush helps me, and the blending medium helps me really get a nice ombre sunset. A little water, a little more quinacridone, and just keep blending. At the top here, I've got almost pure quinacridone. I can even help taper the moon if I need to. Just a nice little sunset. We can all do them. To a nice little seascape. And our dimensional moon. We're not quite ready to get our waterfall going, and you might need to make sure you've got a nice blend between the orange and the yellow. Just, you know, work it till you're happy. If you ever need to rinse out your brush, get a little more pure yellow out, feel free to do that. This is the joy of acrylic paint, is the way the paint can be negotiated with and worked until you're happy. All right, so I have a very nice little sunset that I'm happy with there. So I'm going to keep working this a little bit till I'm really feeling my sunset. And one thing that I can do is I can take a little of my white over to my quinacridone, and it gets it kind of into this rose. If I've got a little yellow into it, it's a color I really, really enjoy. Get my glazing medium in there and just make sure that this spot up in the sky. One of the things is I just really like the paintings to be very rich and lush. And taking that extra time to push them to that space is important. Just adding this little bit of pink to it, which I think is important for the feeling of the painting. Coming around here. I might even put some of this in the water. I like it so much. So if you've got some nice pink that you really, really like, there you go. You can always come along here, along this little edge, and just ripple that into it. I like to ripple it right down the center of the sun reflection. This reminds me of like surfing t-shirts and things. Kind of fun to do. All right, so we've got that. We're doing great. Now, we're going to put in a couple little silhouettes, and I'm going to do that with a fluid black paint. Just so I have nice flow off my brush. You can do that with any black you have. I'm going to get, like my hand's getting much more personality going. I'm going to get a little detail here. This is a number 4 bright. I'm going to load that right up. And I'm going to make a distant little kind of hill line. So I'm going to come up, then I'm going to come down. That come right across there. This is a distant, far away hill line. Giving this landscape some depth and interest. Sometimes you just got to change things up in a painting. All right. Just along that distant ledge. See, that just pushes that back. You know, just make yourself happy with the mountain range that you have. Make them feel like volcanic forces have pushed them up. And I think I'm going to push a little landmass right here and maybe a little palm tree. Again, this was a really terrific idea. Maybe a little rock comes there. Nice little landmass. Paint this all in black. You can even join those lines so that this distant landmass into this dimensional moon. And we're going to have some water falling off of this into space. So that'll be really fun. And then we'll do some twinkle stars once we know where our water is. And we'll be done. Easy peasy. Just letting my bright do the work. You're going to have to plant a coconut where your palm tree is going to come out. I think I'm going to plant one coming up here because I want to leave my sun sort of, I don't want to cross in front of my sun. So I'm going to plant my coconut right here on the edge, brushing on the edge of my brushes. And I'm going to come up, 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 pressing lighter and lighter, and I'm going to curve. Now, my trunk at the base needs to be thinner than the top. So I'm going to start from the top of this trunk, pulling down because that's easier for me, and then as I come down I can push it, make it a little thicker, and that is that palm tree. All right, now I think it can be nice to have a pair of palm trees together, so I'm going to plant another little coconut, and I'm going to, maybe you can either have the coconut go the opposite direction like this right here, which we'll do, and maybe be a little bit shorter than its friend and a little bit smaller. Here, got a couple little coconuts on this nice little island in dimensional space. And then it's fun to pull the fronds out. And so I like to pull the fronds out and go floof, 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 floof. Yes, the sound helps. These are little curves, right? And when I have a nice little bit of curves that I enjoy, I come along and I define them and I just brush down the little part of the frond leaves by pulling this out. And see how the dryness of the brush kind of defines that? You could do that with like a little detail brush. You could come on the edge and be like, no, no, I want them to be each little bit on the edge here, like that. And that's good too. Just make sure your tops are kind of smooth. And just pull that out. Where they come together, they would blend together like that, see? Maybe there's, this one's both sides of the frond. Look at that. It's a very frondy frond. This friend here could come off in dimensional space. Just let the silhouette work it, just pulling these out. So my fronds are thicker here and they taper thinner, kind of like our tree, doesn't it? You can pull out a detail brush if you want. can be as delicate with your little palm fronds as you want. Mine are hardy space fronds. I mean, maybe this is a distant resort that you want to go to. I don't know. It just really reminds me of like surf culture so much. You guys have no idea. You can even make a little round coconut right there, see? Little things that you can do. And if you want those little coconuts to feel a little coconutty, tip your brush on the edge with a little bit of white when you do the little circle. Look at that. Then those coconuts really show. Rinse, rinse, rinse. And I'm going to give some fronds to his little friend over here. Right? So you have to just decide like how his little fronds, certainly a frond's going to come off here, and then one's going to come there, and one might come there, and curve one over here for sure, right? That seems pretty plausible. I like to fan them out, and I don't mind if they layer. I'll just pull that out just like I did before. Just pulling those out. Just pull those little fronds out. Oh, they blended in together. These are hardy little space trees. Because, you know, if you were a tree in space, you would definitely be hardy. If you get a little boo-boo of black over your moon, you can make two decisions. You can, and I'm going to kind of blow your mind here, break the dimensional barrier here and pull it off, or fix the boo-boo. It's really up to you. Now we got palm frond in space, though, is all I'm saying. Because that's imagination, isn't it? We don't have to be constrained by what other people think a palm frond can do, or really anything on our canvas. No matter how limited we are in life, on our canvas, we're not limited at all. I like to touch up any black that looks thin. Almost done. Just pulling these little palm fronds down. This is a really enjoyable little piece. You know, this one could have a little coconut or not a little coconut. It's really up to you. Just blending that in. I'm going to rinse that way out and get some clean, clean water. And probably clean, clean brush, because I don't want any gray in what I'm about to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little white, skin there a bit, and a little yellow. And I'm going to come here. Push this back. We'll say that there's some water splashing up here, like there would be. And I need to pull some lines straight down. I'm going to come on the edge of my brush and pull a line straight down. And there's a little yellow to what I'm pulling straight down, because I want what's up here to feel like it's coming down here. This is me just kind of balancing out my reflections and things. Sometimes I'll do that. So get a little yellow, get a little white. I'm going to make sure that whatever I'm pulling from my moon, where the waterfall is coming down, right, that it's coming down. Because there's some source of gravity off this moon, I say, and so therefore there is. The reason I pull the water straight down, even though it would float off in weird little globules in space if this were actually a dimensional portal into space, is because the way the water pools down helps the viewer's brain know it's a waterfall. So that's how sometimes if you're trying to do fantasy pieces and you're trying to say impossible things, you can help take your viewer on a journey to your imagination, and they can travel with you and not get stuck on whatever limited concerns that they might have about what things can or can't do in space. Right? If you need to, to have a nice fluid line, turn your canvas on the side, because what are we going to do? We're going to make ourselves comfortable. We are not, and I'm going to pull some deep yellow because I'm going to come over this. All right, now you have to wonder, is this a gaseous planet? Is this a lake of acid and it wasn't red because of reflected light, but because of its chemical composition? You don't know. I know. But if I'm not telling you, you'll have to guess. All right, so when you're happy with the flow of your water, then you're going to grab your white. And I like to come up to the top. Let's make some kind of frothy little space here. And then pull down the pure white. And this is where a good white, again, will really come and serve you incredibly well. If you have a quality white, a pro white, you won't lose this highlight as the paint dries. But sometimes with a student white you can. So if that's your problem, if you're painting over it and it feels like what you put there just vanished on you after it dried, that's color shift, and you can fix that by upgrading that one color. And I'm just pulling down this waterfall into space in a way that makes me happy. And adding a little frothy froth. And then I'm just letting the paint. This is the other reason I like heavy body paint, because I can do this sort of dimensional impasto right here. Coming back, making sure my reflection going back is pretty on point, right? Let's make sure we have good reflection going back. Help tell that story right out the front. You can little wave hitting that rock. How we feel about that? It's looking pretty good. You know, give your coconuts a highlight if they need one. Okay. You can come up the front of your rock. I could even suggest taking a little white and a little yellow, and you can come up the front of your rock if you want to highlight your space. Doesn't that look nice? Make that look very stony, I think is my recommendations. Make it look like stone. Leave it just black. And if when you do it, you don't like it, just paint it black. Don't stress on it, though. You know, I'm going to add a little highlight to my coconut tree here. Maybe another little one here. There we go. It's nice. Just look at these things. Go, do I want to do that? If you don't want to do that, don't do it. All right. Now I'm going to add some twinkle stars, because I think that's a super important part of this whole thing. And I definitely want one here, and I need a few really gorgeous ones here, because I think that's what's going to make this really pop. I might need to put out some more fluid white paint, which is clogged a little bit because I didn't cap it properly. Cap your fluid white paint properly. I'm going to get a nail tool. This is a nail dotting tool. You could do a toothpick, back of your brush, and go around and create some special little stars that you can twinkle in the sky. Make focal and important in your story. Right? Some of them can be bigger, some of them can be smaller. I'm going to get a little tiny, tiny detail brush. And what I like to do with my twinkle stars is this time I'm going to do an X. And maybe a short little twinkles. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars. Twinkle, twinkle, where you are. And X. We'll make a big twinkle on this one. Big twinkle on this one. Right? Big twinkle. Little radiating light out this way. You can even make little circles going around them where they're really twinkly. Little twinkles. Detail brushes, little twinkles. They can be different sizes. All right. Just twinkle them. And if you're uncomfortable, see, I got uncomfortable and so that messed with my twinkle. If you're uncomfortable in any way, change the direction. Let's just nice little glow around each twinkle. Each little twinkle. Just have fun with it. Yeah, just twinkle, twinkle them up. You know, that's just up to you. Little light flares coming out. You know, this one is just a little bit of a twinkle up top. Right? Little bit of a twinkle. Little bit of a twinkle. And just have fun just creating your twinkles. Look for any ones that you think you're missing. Examine your canvas. If you feel like it's spacey and magical, go ahead and sign. I'm going to take this little brush here. So I'm going to get my little signature brush out. What I've got here is a #1 monogrammer. It's got a nice little detail point to it. Could have been good for stars too. I'm just going to sign it right here. All right. I like my signatures to be, you know, kind of funny and interesting and hidden in somewhere in the canvas or part of the canvas, you know. Try to think of them in however you would. So hopefully you lived up to your goal. You spoke very nicely to yourself this entire project, very nicely to each other if you're crafting with friends or family, and just took a little break from your day to just sort of put down your burdens and your worries and art a little bit. I'm hoping that's what you did. I hope you like our dimensionals portal into space. You can have birds or ships or all kinds of things to this. You know, let your imagination be your guide. Take care of yourselves, be good to yourselves, and I want to see you at the easel really soon.